When we think of Solomon, we envision a king surrounded by glory, wisdom, and wealth. But do we truly understand his story? The Bible paints a fascinating picture of a man who reached the pinnacle of prosperity yet faced the consequences of his choices. He was a king who could have everything but whose heart was tested like that of any other human being. Why did such a wise man go astray? And what can his victories and failures teach us about life, leadership, and the search for purpose? Get ready for a journey through the highs and lows of Solomon's life. A story that goes beyond gold and wisdom to touch the essence of what it means to be human. Reigning during a period of peace and prosperity is a rare accomplishment. But Solomon, son of David and Bathsheba, achieved precisely that. His life stands as a brilliant example of unparalleled wisdom and wealth, a true milestone in Israel's history. During Solomon's reign, Israel experienced what many call its golden age. Imagine a kingdom where neighboring nations sought alliances, traders came from distant lands, and faith was centralized in a majestic temple symbolizing God's presence. The beginning of his journey as king was not without challenges. As the young successor to David, he inherited not only the throne but also the expectation of continuing his father's legacy. However, Solomon quickly proved himself more than capable. One of his early significant acts as a leader was consolidating the kingdom, ensuring political and economic stability. He transformed Israel into a thriving commercial hub where precious goods like gold, timber, and spices flowed abundantly. Solomon's wealth was legendary. The Bible describes him amassing immeasurable treasures, including tons of gold and silver, which were as common in Jerusalem as stones. His palace and the temple in Jerusalem were stunning examples of his grandeur. However, this prosperity was not limited to material wealth. It also translated into cultural and spiritual advancements that benefited the people. Who wouldn't want to live during such a time of abundance and achievement? But what truly set Solomon apart from other kings was not just his wealth but his wisdom. Leaders and scholars from all over the world sought him out to hear his counsel and learn from him. A classic example is the visit of the Queen of Sheba, who was astonished by Solomon's wisdom and the splendor of his kingdom. She brought valuable gifts but left with something even more precious: the inspiration his words provided. Solomon's wisdom was not superficial. It was practical and applicable to everyday life. He excelled as a mediator in difficult cases, such as the famous story of the two mothers disputing the maternity of a child. His astute decision not only revealed the true mother, but also his profound respect for justice. And here lies the lesson for us. How can we apply wisdom in our daily decisions, balancing logic and compassion? This combination of wealth, wisdom, and spiritual leadership transformed Israel into a model for other nations. Solomon's reign demonstrated how a leader could impact not only his people but also the world around him. However, this success story was built on a divine foundation, reminding us that every gift comes from God. It's an invitation to reflect on how we are using the resources and talents God has given us. And so, Solomon's legacy begins to unfold, full of glory but also unique challenges. The next chapter of his life would reveal how the request he made of God would shape the destiny of his reign and the future of Israel. One of the most remarkable moments in Solomon's life was when he had the opportunity to ask God for anything. Instead of requesting wealth, power, or longevity, Solomon asked for wisdom to govern the people of Israel with justice. This request, recorded in the Bible, not only pleased God but also revealed Solomon's humble heart and higher purpose as a leader. Imagine the depth of such a choice, prioritizing the collective well-being over personal gain. As a reward for his choice, God not only granted Solomon wisdom but also promised him wealth, honor, and a long life, provided he remained faithful. This moment was a turning point in his reign. The divine wisdom he received transformed Israel into an example of prosperity and justice. Consider how our own choices shape our paths. Are we seeking things that truly make a difference, or are we clinging to what is fleeting? Solomon's wisdom manifested in practical and tangible ways. He was renowned for resolving disputes with astonishing insight, like the famous case of the two mothers. When both claimed to be the child's mother, Solomon proposed dividing the baby in half, immediately revealing the true mother. This judgment not only demonstrated his wisdom but also his ability to understand human motivations. It's a lesson in how understanding people can help us make better decisions. Beyond his wisdom in matters of justice, Solomon was also a natural strategist. He used his understanding to expand Israel's borders, establish trade alliances, and strengthen the kingdom's economy. His governance was based on a clear vision and careful planning, something any leader or professional can learn from. How can you apply this strategic approach in your personal or professional life? Solomon's wisdom was also reflected in his writings. He authored books like Proverbs, where he shared principles that remain relevant today. One of his most famous teachings says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." This message reminds us that true wisdom begins with trusting God, something that can be cultivated through study, prayer, and continuous seeking. But wisdom was not just a blessing for Solomon. It also brought responsibilities. He was called to lead according to God's standards, a task that required discipline and faithfulness. It's a reminder for all of us that the gifts we receive come with the responsibility to use them for good. How are we managing the resources and opportunities we've been given? And so, while Solomon's wisdom shaped his reign, he prepared for one of the greatest projects of his life, building a temple that would become the spiritual heart of Israel and a symbol of God's presence. Let's explore this further. One of Solomon's greatest legacies was the construction of the temple in Jerusalem, a work that not only represented the pinnacle of his wisdom and wealth, but also symbolized God's presence among the people of Israel. This monumental project was envisioned by David, but was brought to fruition by Solomon. Imagine the grandeur of a building whose construction involved thousands of workers, precious materials imported from distant lands, and a dedication that lasted 7 years. The temple was more than a structure. It was the spiritual heart of Israel. Its purpose went beyond housing the Ark of the Covenant. It was a meeting place between God and his people, where sacrifices were offered and prayers were raised. The Bible describes the temple's splendor in detail, with gold covering its walls and cherubim guarding the Holy of Holies. It was a reflection of divine glory, a visual reminder of the covenant God had made with Israel. The construction of the temple also highlights the importance of planning and cooperation. Solomon formed alliances with neighboring kings, like Hiram of Tyre, to obtain cedar and cypress wood and skilled artisans. This collaboration teaches us that great achievements often depend on teamwork and the ability to seek help when needed. How can we apply this in our own projects and dreams? In addition to the temple, Solomon also built his palace, which took 13 years to complete. While impressive, this longer and more elaborate construction raises questions about priorities. The temple was finished quickly, while the palace reflected the king's luxury and comfort. This makes us think about how we balance our priorities between what is necessary and what is desirable. Are we putting what is most important first? The dedication of the temple was a landmark event filled with ceremonies and prayers. Solomon offered a powerful prayer, asking God to hear the petitions made there and to forgive the people when they repented. God's response was clear. His presence would remain there as long as Israel remained faithful. This reminds us that, despite all external splendor, true connection with God depends on faithfulness and the heart. The temple's impact transcended the kingdom of Israel. Its fame spread, attracting visitors and increasing Solomon's influence. However, its true significance was not just in its architectural beauty but in what it represented. The promise that God was with his people. It's a message that continues to echo, reminding us that, no matter where we are, God's presence is accessible. And so, the temple became a symbol of faith and prosperity, marking the peak of Solomon's reign. But this period of glory also ushered in an era of unprecedented economic and cultural growth. Let's explore how this shaped Israel and its influence on the world. Solomon's reign is remembered as an era of unparalleled prosperity in Israel's history. During his rule, the kingdom transformed into a hub of international trade, connecting peoples and cultures in unprecedented ways. Israel's strategic location, at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe, made it a crucial point for trade routes. Under Solomon's leadership, precious goods like gold, spices, and gemstones flowed into Jerusalem, symbolizing God's favor over the kingdom. One of the factors that drove this prosperity was Solomon's diplomatic skill. He established strategic alliances with neighboring nations, such as Egypt and Tyre. These relationships ensured not only peace but also access to vital resources. Imagine a king who used diplomacy to strengthen his kingdom instead of war. This teaches us the importance of building strong, mutually beneficial relationships in our own lives. Maritime trade was another significant innovation of the time. Solomon, in partnership with Hiram of Tyre, built a fleet that sailed to Ophir, a mysterious place known for its wealth. These expeditions brought back gold, silver, ivory, and even exotic animals, further expanding Israel's influence. This economic development not only enriched the kingdom but also promoted cultural exchange. How can we apply this vision of exploring opportunities beyond our borders? Prosperity also manifested in the people's daily lives. The Bible describes a time when Judah and Israel lived in safety, everyone under their own vine and fig tree. This image of peace and stability reflects the direct impact of wise and visionary leadership. It's a reminder that a leader's decisions directly affect the quality of life of their followers. How are we using our influence to benefit those around us? Culturally, Solomon's reign was a time of significant advancements. Arts, architecture, and literature flourished, and the knowledge accumulated during this period continued to impact future generations. This golden age shows us that true prosperity goes beyond material wealth. It includes valuing knowledge, creativity, and spirituality. How can we foster this kind of growth in our own communities? However, this prosperity also brought challenges. With increased wealth and power came greater responsibilities and temptations. Solomon faced the dilemma of balancing economic growth with faithfulness to God's principles. This tension is a reminder that success brings risks that must be managed wisely. Where in our lives do we need to make adjustments to maintain balance? And so, Solomon's reign continued to shine, but with it came the first signs of an internal struggle that would mark his later years. Let's explore how the wisest man in the world faced the greatest challenge of his life, maintaining his faithfulness and integrity in the face of temptation. Despite being known as the wisest man in history, Solomon was not immune to human weaknesses. The final years of his reign were marked by decisions that compromised his faithfulness to God and tarnished his legacy. The turning point began with his numerous marriages to foreign women, something that, according to the Bible, God had explicitly forbidden. These unions were not just personal relationships but also political alliances that brought profound spiritual consequences. Solomon's wives introduced idolatrous practices into Israel, something that was clearly against God's principles. The man who built the temple to honor the one true God began to tolerate altars and worship dedicated to foreign deities. Imagine the pain of seeing such a grand leader stray from the divine purpose that had guided his life. This reminds us that even those in high positions can lose their way when they stray from spiritual foundations. This departure had grave consequences not only for Solomon but also for the entire kingdom. The worship of other gods weakened Israel's spiritual unity, creating divisions that would later lead to the kingdom's fragmentation. It's a reminder that our choices affect not just our lives but also the lives of those around us. How can we ensure that our decisions align with the values we want to pass on to future generations? Despite his wisdom, Solomon allowed himself to be consumed by luxuries and excesses that ultimately distracted him from his mission. He focused on accumulating wealth and expanding his power, forgetting that his position was a gift from God. This raises an important question. Are we focusing on what is eternal, or are we distracted by what is temporary? Perhaps it's time to reassess our priorities. Solomon's decline also reveals something profound about human nature: the danger of self-sufficiency. He began by trusting in God, but over time, he seemed to rely more on his own wisdom and resources. This teaches us that no matter how talented or successful we are, we can never disconnect from our spiritual source. It's an invitation to reflect on how we are nurturing our relationship with God amidst the challenges of daily life. Despite his mistakes, Solomon's story does not end in complete failure. His experiences, including his failures, serve as powerful lessons for us. In Ecclesiastes, we see a man reflecting on the futility of pursuing wealth and earthly pleasures without a higher purpose. This final introspection is a testament that even in our lowest moments, there is room for repentance and reconnection with God. And so, Solomon's life comes to an end, leaving a legacy of greatness but also of caution. His words and writings, however, continue to guide and inspire us. Let's explore how his literary works, such as Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, encapsulate his wisdom and offer us valuable guidance. Solomon's writings, found in the Bible, remain one of the most enduring legacies of his wisdom and reflections on life. Books like Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs not only capture his intelligence but also offer universal truths that continue to guide generations. Imagine a king who, even after his death, still speaks to us through words that touch the heart and illuminate the mind. Proverbs is a treasure trove of practical wisdom. Its lessons range from how to treat others to how to pursue success with integrity. One of its most well-known messages is, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." This reminds us that true understanding begins with genuine reverence for God. Think about how to apply this idea in daily life. Perhaps by setting aside time for prayer and reflection before making important decisions. Ecclesiastes, on the other hand, presents a more introspective and sometimes somber view of life. Solomon reflects on the futility of wealth, earthly pleasures, and achievements without spiritual purpose. He concludes that everything is vanity if not rooted in God. It's an invitation to reassess our priorities and seek meaning in what truly matters. How can you align your life with something greater than fleeting goals? The Song of Songs is a celebration of love and the beauty of human relationships, often interpreted as an allegory of the relationship between God and His people. Its poetic words show us that love is both a divine gift and a responsibility. They inspire us to cultivate relationships based on respect, devotion, and mutual care. How are we nurturing the most important relationships in our lives? Solomon's teachings also challenge us to be intentional with our time and choices. He writes in Ecclesiastes, "To everything, there is a season." This timeless truth encourages us to embrace each moment, knowing that there is a purpose for every phase of life. Perhaps you're in a season of waiting or facing challenges, but Solomon's words remind us that every season has its value. Another fascinating point is how his writings reflect the duality of his life. Solomon experienced the highs and lows of power, wisdom, and human failings. His final reflections not only admit his errors but also point to redemption and the importance of turning back to God. This encourages us to be honest about our own struggles and seek divine guidance to overcome them. Thus, Solomon's teachings transcend time, offering insights that help us live with purpose and wisdom. They show us that, regardless of our circumstances, there is always something to learn and apply. And so, his life and writings challenge us to reflect. How can we integrate these lessons into our own journey? After exploring the highs and lows of Solomon's life, it's impossible not to reflect on the impact of his choices and the depth of his teachings. And you? How are you applying wisdom, purpose, and spirituality in your daily life? Solomon's story reminds us that even the wisest face challenges, but it also shows us that there is always a way back to God. What are you seeking today? Success, balance, or perhaps something deeper? This is an opportunity to reassess your priorities and align your life with what truly matters. Consider Solomon's teachings. How can you bring more purpose to your decisions? Perhaps it's through a sincere prayer, a moment of reflection on Proverbs, or even a practical change in how you conduct your routine. No matter where you start, what matters is taking the first step. After all, wisdom is not about knowing everything but about applying what we learn in the right way. If this journey has sparked something within you, why not keep exploring? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and don't forget to check out the videos appearing on the screen now. Each one was designed to help you deepen your understanding and apply these lessons to your life. See you in the next video. Until then, continue seeking wisdom, cultivating purpose, and living with the certainty that the lessons of the Bible and God can transform everything around you.